Well, hello there, everyone. You have right here, I'll talk about for true lessons right here of, no problems compared to problems. And this right here, I'm sure most of us have seen this right here of this design right here of me sitting down on like what you call is like a style of a quilt of the American flag right here. And I talk about, for better safe than sorry right here. But you see right here is that I'm sure most of us have seen this talk about for true lessons talking about the truth. Truth shall set you free. We may have heard that which called it so far saying, but you're talking about for like for really I'm like if anybody that may warrant to word that what are the reasons to maybe why you should tell the truth at all times. And in case of anybody that may warrant to word that what sorts of answers do you usually give related to if it's about the matter about maybe if it's your first date or something like that, or maybe a job interview or something like that. And you might tell a lie, just to get the person to like you. And I'm sure most of us have been there to where whenever you're talking about something and you're introducing yourself and you say a few things that aren't really all true, and something that I said that just because to make you feel a part of the group, whichever it could be. But you have right here is that this right here would be me right here sitting down on like American flag style quilt right here. And let's just say that with talking about better safe than sorry, what does it usually mean whenever we say better safe than sorry? I guess it basically means is to where if you are endangered, then do not proceed. So let's just say if you are concerned of the matter, or that you decide to cancel something or postpone something, or you decide not to go further with something. And a lot of times, in case of anybody that may warn us, is to where if you're going to have a group of people that are going to constantly be saying that they're going to be getting mad because you did not proceed with the project or with the results, or something else. It could be about exactly that. A number of things that maybe I could mention, but test results, I'm like, why something's not very safe, to use or just to proceed with. And let's just say that maybe it could be medications too, in case of anybody that may say that medications are not like candy. Whenever you get medications, then if the person is sick enough, if you got a real bad cough or cold, then let's just say if you don't have the right medicine, maybe let's just say Tylenol. I know it. In case of anybody that may warrant to where that just like Tylenol, if the person's not feeling very well, then they might take some Tylenol. Or that let's just say if they got a cough, but instead they're gonna maybe take something like Pepto-Bismol. They're gonna maybe take another medication. And the doctor says to where that make sure that you're taking the right medication. Don't just take what you have or what you can think of. But so that's those sorts of situations, like anything about your side effects, huh? But you have right here, in case if anybody has tried this before, to where that I'm showing like a little picture diagram right here of like a blanket right here. And in case if anybody say that that has any doctor or therapist ever asked you to, or if they're going to ask you to maybe touch the stars on the blanket, then you might say that really anybody can do that. So in case if you're going to be in a meeting with about maybe 4 or 5 people, and then they ask you to do something, and let's just say if you can't do it, and people are going to maybe think that well, what's wrong with you? Well, why won't you do what he asked you to do? But what he or she asked you to do? But really, that how do we handle it to where that you think that maybe you'll be able to take care of some things, no problem at all, and no problem that I can go ahead and you'll have that ready, or I can go ahead and do that. But let's just say if somebody were to ask you lay down and relax on that blanket, and in case of anybody that may warrant to where that really how can I lay down and relax on the blanket? I'm like, the blanket is on the floor, and the blanket is spread out so that way you can lie down on there. And how come you can't lie down on the blanket? So in case of anybody that may say that maybe doctors though that they ask you to lay down on the blanket, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. So so I'm sure that if somebody asks you to do something, maybe you can do it. at no, you think you can maybe do it at no problem, but then sometimes maybe you can't. But really though, that has anybody have ever wondered toward it? Go by the truth of and trust of talking about is that trying to get somebody to understand about certain things that maybe you just can't do, and but still though that mainly about talk about problem zone that. I know I run into problems almost all the time, and in case of anybody that may want to name one thing that maybe you hardly ever have any problems with, but almost anything that I can think of, you're going to have a problem with almost everything. Maybe trying to assemble something, or trying to put something together, or maybe cleaning something, or how many of us are going to have a problem with using a blanket or a pillow? Or maybe if it is about laying down, I'm like, that you're taking a bath, I'm like, or if it's maybe if it's going to be maybe, of course we all have had problems with the television set or some sort, but let's just say that if the case goes by is to where that you were asked to lay down on a blanket, like to say it's your favorite color, your favorite style, and then they give you like an apron to use or something like that, like a little robe to put on, and so it's like that just lay down on a blanket and relax, and so it seems like first thing that might come to your mind is that to where I can do that no problem, but still though that and and then it touched the stars too. I can remember once or twice that whenever I go to the doctors, that there would be like 3D books that they would hand to you and ask you to try to touch the wings on the butterfly. The butterfly. There was a butterfly, and I don't know if there was a grasshopper or the cricket or the caterpillar, but if I can remember right, that they would hand out like these 3D pictures, and then they would they would ask you to put the glasses on, like the 3D glasses, so that way you can see the 3D effect, but try to touch try to touch the wings on the butterfly, but in 3D. So back when we were younger, that we probably liked, if we were curious about something, we would like to touch something, but still, but let's just say the doctor asked you to touch the stars on the blanket, and you couldn't do that, and they might say something like, I can't believe it's so difficult for you to touch the stars on the blanket, because anybody can really, nobody else has had any problems with that, but let's just say that maybe if it's more complicated than just reaching over and touching the stars, or maybe that goes to the next step is to where whenever you touch the stars, that you actually feel comfort, whenever you touch them, like that if it's the fabric material to where that you touch the stars, but so it's like that looking at this blanket example right here, and so in case of anybody that may want to where that somebody asks you to do something, and let's just say if you're in a group of about maybe 5 other people, and if there's a problem, then how do you handle it with that situation? But talk about right here of you have right here's the stars, and I don't know how many of us have come to that situation to where that if we're going to maybe be using this as like a math problem. And really, a star, though, is a star really considered a number? I guess, does that really mean freedom, or does that maybe mean something like, okay, it's supposed to be like a shape, of the matter. It's supposed to be like a shape. But you have right here is like an X right here. We see this right here is in like an X right here, and with that X right there, and then I can go ahead and draw like maybe some V-shape, rectangles, and so it's like, that you draw shapes. So whenever you're trying to draw a star, and at half the time, it seems like that have like a multiple choice, multiplication, more like a multiplication source of problem right there, and the way we look at that right there is almost knowing as to where that really is a star. Really considered. I did like Photoshop work right here, like right here with the shirt right here, But in case of anybody that may wonder to where that in order to be able to solve a math problem, is a star really considered like an equation to solve a problem? So it says, star 1 and star 3 equals to what? Star 1 and star 3 equals to what? And then I know, in case of anybody that may be wondering to where if you've had a number of hours of practice of trying to draw a star, and usually that you have right here is to draw a body right here, but then from there, and it's like, and then go ahead and add in the legs right there. So yeah, that you have some practices trying to draw a star, and half the time it seems like that quite a few of them that come out quite totally different. So you're likely thinking as to where that the stars right there, but then maybe darken a little bit of the outlines right there. And so it's like, yeah, a number of times that you try to drawing a star, and half the time that you're trying to draw it exactly about the same way as like what you would see on one of those patterns or anything else. But this right here, yeah, the way I drew the star right here almost looked like that maybe if that's a star going sideways, and then if you want to call it like draw it like a 3D source of way right there. So a number of times that we can practice drawing a star right here, and think it is to where that the different yeah, it looks so easy just to do all that. But then like I say, is to where that whenever you draw a star though, that I'm like, yeah, I guess you could say that a star was pretty much my favorite shape. So you would go ahead and put stars, and maybe yeah, the glow-in-the-dark stars. How many of us remember the glow-in-the-dark stars that you can buy those in a pack, and then just mount them on your walls, and like the kids would enjoy them too, the glow-in-the-dark stars, where you turn the lights off and then they would glow in the dark. They would glow on your walls, mount them in the bedroom, something like that. But so yeah, let's just say that if this was right here was supposed to be like a math equation. So you have right there is the star right there, and let's just say that multiply that times. Multiply that times 3. And you're likely wondering to where that yeah, if that was supposed to be like like a math problem right there, like a 3 like a long division. If anybody say that yeah, that stars usually represent like a point, and I guess most teachers would do that. As I say, yeah, between 0, if there's nothing in there, then they would put like 0. But still, that would stars, do stars really equal to like any source of equation? But still, though, that in case if anybody say you try to solve a few math problems and want to know about, that do you think that you'll be able to solve that and have the answer ready within about maybe 10 or 15 minutes? And I say, oh no, you maybe you need more time than that, or maybe if it's about maybe that it could also be about that you don't quite understand what this is all about, and maybe what that has anything to do with maybe with the basic multiple choice question test or something like that. But anyway, but yeah, that in case of anybody that would ask as to where that does the stars, I guess stars are usually measured by like, yeah, they're usually like a symbol for a point. If you get an answer right, like, yeah, if you get so many stars, I guess that's credits. I guess if you kind of call it like credits. They don't really, it's not really supposed to be like, it's not really supposed to stand for, like, yeah, for -5 or +5 or anything like that. But I know that most of the time with a lot of those teachers, whenever they're grading the work, though, that, yeah, it's like you put a star somewhere, but yeah, a number of times I have tried to practice at drawing a star, and in case of anybody say, yeah, you draw a star and want to know about why is it that you trying to get the sides to match up with the equal sides, because a number of times it's because I'm sure most of us have had practice drawing stars, but usually that this way is easier to just draw it just by the line right there. It's got like only about 4 or 5 sides, and you're able to draw the twinkly stars. Yeah, I'm like, yeah. How do you draw like the twinkly stars, the ones with the dots, like a twinkle twinkle little star, the twinkly little star. But draw like the little twinkly little star right there. But yeah, that right there on the top would be the head of the star, and this right here, these will be the legs. So it's like whenever you're drawing a star, it just seems like a lot of times, like, that quite a few times that you kind of messed up because you're trying to get the corners nice and even, and maybe that if you're trying to draw a certain way, or in case the doctors ask as to where that, maybe if you're trying to turn it sideways or something like that. But still, though, that you're trying to draw a star also, and then just thinking as somebody asks you to do something, and then maybe you can't do it, and then you'll likely say that, well, fine, well, what's the problem? But really, sometimes you just gotta say as to where if you can't do something, maybe that you thought that you can do it, like, making copies, or maybe printing something, and then say that I would think that you'll be able to do this job at no problem or something. But still, that how do we handle it whenever we come up with problems with something? Something to where that you think that you'll be able to do this at no problem at all, but then people get mad at you because maybe you can't take care of it right then at the moment. Well, there is a problem. So sometimes that we just kind of try to get in the habit of train somebody to say that, well, if there's a problem, then, I guess that there's, what you call that so far saying is to where that, really, that, tell them about what's going on and try to have the problem resolved. But still, though, that, I guess not everybody really wants to hear that, to where that there's a problem, taking care of this. Because that, problems, so not everybody wants to deal with problems, and whenever problems come up, it just seems like, that, if you want to spend the time to fix them, then it's all yours. But, until then, I'm going to set the problem aside. So in case of anybody that may want to word it, how is how is the problem going to get fixed if you just set it to the side? But the way I think about it too is that, really, that how many of us could maybe warrant where that, if there's going to be a problem with being able to lie down on a quilted American flag blanket, just to relax or some sort. Somebody asks you to lie down on a blanket, and then maybe if you can't lie down, maybe because that you have problems kneeling, or maybe that you have to lie down on a surface that's nice and soft and comfortable. But other than better safe than sorry. So in case of anybody that asks, is that what does you usually mean whenever people say that? It's like, well, before you proceed, if you see something wrong and you don't think it's a good idea to proceed, I'm like, just for safety reasons. Also, is to where that you gotta look at. I'm like, if I don't know if you want to kind of call it maybe recall. I'm like, that. That whenever you see something that don't look very safe, then I guess like anybody say that then you basically say that you try to take responsibility, and saying is to where that you are not going to proceed with this because there's something wrong with it, with this or that. But still, that in case of anybody say that you don't really see anything, you didn't really see anything wrong with what was going on. But still, though, that like say for talk about the truth of the matter is that I know I run into problems almost all the time, and I do think it's really unfair that problems that do come up, and you get real mad and frustrated about it because nobody else is having a similar problems. And half the time it's like whenever nobody else is having a similar problems, it just seems like exactly that's kind of delaying the whole situation from what you're trying to do, and for what's for exactly about what you gotta do as well, and especially if it's going to be trying to get a job done or trying to get something done the way you like to get it done. And So whenever you're going to have other people that maybe that's going to be mad, about all the time about the situation as well. But I guess one thing to think about too is that in case of anybody that may want to word it, problems. Most problems, you learn a lot of things whenever you have a problem. And I guess not everybody wants to deal with them. And I don't blame anybody either. I get so aggravated to where it seems like you just got to get in the habit of saying, what's the problem and what's the best way to resolve that? So it's like, that there's been maybe there might be more times to where you're able to do something at no problem at all. But then there might be some times to where there is a big problem with something. So it's like, the best ways of how to do it is like, to be patient on the process. And I know a number of times that I had to, just kind of say to myself, is like, say to somebody that, really, that, that's just way up how you learn. But still, that in order to be able to train somebody and just say is to where that the best advice is that to be patient on the process, because as of right now, that maybe that after you correct something and then you maybe give it more time, but still at the same time, somebody could be waiting to be able to get something from you, or to turn something in, or just to be able to correct something or something like that. It could be something that you were working on from earlier, and they're waiting for you to be able to get it done. And it's like, that the problem was resolved. But I'll tell you one thing, that trying to fix a problem, I guess if you want to kind of call it, is to where that whenever you run into problems almost all the time, that what does it basically mean? How does it feel whenever you run into a problem? And especially, it seems like that you are what you call one of the known common persons, maybe of the whole class, or maybe it could be something that's related to the group or something like that. Whenever you're running into problems almost all the time, that it seems like to where that exactly that people are looking at you like, what's wrong with you? What's your problem? But the way I think about it, it's not because that I'm afraid to do something, is because that something about it is to where that if it hurts your knees, or if it hurts your arms, or maybe that that if you have a bad sense of feeling about something. But the way I think about it also, that whenever we're thinking about that somebody asks you to touch the stars on the flag of a quilted blanket or something like that, or to put something on, or to try something, but still though that how do we handle it for whenever if somebody asks you to do something that's like, you tried to get in the habit to where saying is to where, I can do that, no problem. But then sometimes it's like, no, oh no, it's that's not how it works. We're not going to have this ready. I'm not going to have this ready until 8 a.m. Tomorrow morning or something like that. So you might say something like, people ask you to make some copies for them, and have them ready in the folder or something like that, and they're ready to bring to the meeting, the 8 o'clock meeting or something like that. They ask for copies, or maybe to ask you to do scans or work in documentations, something like that. And they want it done in 5 hours. And sometimes it's like, you might, exactly, that you feel like telling them that I can do that, no problem. We can have that ready for you, no problem. But I guess, are they really asking you necessarily to where do you know how to use the equipment, or is it basically like if you know exactly about what you're doing, or you were just in there not too long ago, and if the machine is up and ready, or if the accessories, all the tools that you need just to be able to proceed with that step to where they're getting the job done. But I guess that the best way to how to handle it is knowing about for what we love as well. That about the job though, that whenever we're solving problems, then maybe we can see a lot more things that maybe other people can't as well. But still, how many of us can maybe word to where that the things that maybe that the things that you can see whenever you're solving a problem compared to maybe what somebody else that maybe cannot figure out. So let's just say that if this was like maybe an equation, I'm like, how do you describe an equation? It's basically like, a way of, like say before that it's like it's basically like yeah, I don't know if you want to call it like an equation is basically like an example of like like an experiment, like yeah, measurements. I guess if you want to kind of call it like measurements, yeah, equation is like a measurement to where that the right yeah, like a locker combination. In case of anybody that may want to where other ways of how we can describe an equation. It's like a locker combination, something you write down on paper. Or it's like a transcript, copy of something, and you would use that just to be able to resolve a problem or just to be able to get something working. And yeah, that basically that whenever you come up with an equation or something, or maybe a solution to how to fix something, and just knowing about how many people are really going to pay attention to that. But still, though, that if we're going to be drawing stars and trying to draw like 3D stars, or maybe if it's what you call how many of us have seen examples of male and female stars? What does the female star look like? But really, I'm like, yeah, draw like a little lady star right here. Like the lady star would have like little short arms like this right here, and then legs right here. So yeah, that would be an example right there of like the female star right there, and then the gentleman star right there. So yeah, the female and then the male star. In case if anybody say, yeah, if you want to go ahead and include a hat right there. If the star were to be wearing like any sorts of hat. But still, though, that ways of how we can describe, problems. And with most problems, though, that really, that I don't think a star is really equal to anything necessarily, but in case of anybody that may want to worry that if we're going to be having problems almost all the time, but in case of anybody says that nobody should have any problems lying on a blanket and touching the stars that's on the quilted blanket there. I'm like, yeah, maybe, yeah, in case of anybody that may want to worry that, you can't really see the stars very clearly. Not without my glasses, I can't. So, yeah, in case of anybody say that, yeah, somebody ask you to ask you a couple of questions, maybe about your memory, or if it's about, can you see the stars? We'll touch the stars if you can see the stars. But, still, that in case they say, yeah, exactly, what are you dreaming about necessarily? But so a better way of how to say better safe than sorry would be is that try to get somebody to understand, and yeah, that sometimes it's like maybe if it's a doctor's note or something like that, stuff that maybe that you can do and the stuff that you can't do. But really, though, that in order to be able to feel a part of the group half the time, it just seems like that, yeah, that, people are going to be looking at you like, you're uncooperative. Whenever you're uncooperative, people are giving you that look like, the teacher or the instructor or somebody that asks you to do something, and if you can't do it, well, what's your problem? So it's like, yeah, that, and sometimes it seems like that, why is it that it's so hard really to tell the truth, about something, or maybe if it's better safe than sorry, and not to tell the whole truth, but everything but the truth or anything like that. But still, though, that there are some times to where that you were able to do some things at no problem at all. But still, though, that if we're talking about, sitting down on a blanket like that, and so yeah, that really the things that maybe that you didn't think that were too much of a problem, or if anybody that may say that, I might, Marcus, say that, really anybody can do that. But really, there might be some people who maybe can't do certain things. But I guess, I don't know, if you're going to say is like learn to deal with it, or are you going to maybe say something like, to tell them, the truth about, if it's a medical problem, or if it's about as to where that maybe that, yeah, that, maybe, being lying down on a blanket that may require you to lay sideways and then to roll around on your back a couple of times or something like that. But So yeah, so in case of anybody that may say, if you're going to be in a mattress store, yeah, if you're going to be in a store and they ask you to lay down on a bed just to see how comfortable it is, and maybe if you're comfortable with the bed, and maybe if you want to order a bed online, then they ask you to try out, to lay down on some of the beds, that they got these. Yeah, I see the commercials a lot of times too. I'm like, yeah, going to a mattress store and then memory foam pillows and memory foam beds and maybe other sorts of quilt their design beds that they got there. And yeah, exactly. That you want to think that laying down would be a problem because yeah, usually that especially if you have enough energy or not, you may say lay down no problem, but other than that, talk about for the problems that could be fixing the problems that can't be fixed. What's the best way to how to manage it? Well, at least you can say telling the truth, but then as well as that you'll learn for basically for what you learn about solving the problems.